What's going on, guys? So the electric vehicles and self-driving car market is taking the world by storm. Check this out. Global EV registrations increased by 40% in 2020 alone. Sales of electric vehicles now make up almost 3% of global car sales. Look how rapidly EVs have been grabbing market share in just the past 10 years. And then we're especially seeing some explosive growth here in the last 5 to 7 years since 2015. So since the market share of EVs is still hovering around under 3%, there is tremendous opportunity for investors. If that's not convincing enough, Tesla delivered 185,000 vehicles in Q1 of 2021, which was more than double of their deliveries of 88,000 in Q1 of the previous year, 2020. Chinese EV maker NIO delivered a little over 20,000 vehicles in Q1 of 21, which was over 5 times the vehicles they delivered in Q1 of 2020. So if you're someone that's pretty excited about the EV market, but you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket like Tesla or NIO, you've come to the right place. In this video, we're going to go over the DRIV ETF by Global X. We'll look at some basic info in the fund summary, the stock chart, geographical breakdown of their holdings, some of their top holdings. And just a disclaimer, guys, info in this video is not advice and is for entertainment purposes only. With that said, let's get started. So we're looking at their summary here. It says, the Global X Autonomous and Electric Vehicles ETF DRIV seeks to invest in companies involved in the development of autonomous vehicle technology, electric vehicles, EVs, and EV components and materials. This includes companies involved in the development of autonomous vehicle software and hardware, as well as companies that produce EVs, EV components such as lithium batteries, and critical EV materials such as lithium and cobalt. And then let's take a quick look at their stock chart here. Their 1-year return has been right around 90%, and just for reference sake, the S&P 500 index has returned 35%, so pretty impressive 1-year returns here, especially compared to the market. And then let's look at some basic info on the right here. This ETF is ticker symbol DRIV, DRIV. It started in April 2018, so it's a little over 3 years old. And this ETF does currently hold 76 companies. So this ETF currently holds assets of 915 million with 33.4 million shares outstanding, and that gives it a net asset value of about $28, which is the current trading share price of this ETF. So this ETF does have an expense ratio of 0.68%, and if you're not too familiar with what that means, it basically means for every $100 of returns this ETF provides, they're going to keep about 70 cents in fees, so not too bad. And then just to give you some reference, another popular ETF, ARKK by ARK Invest, has an expense ratio of about 0.75%, and iClean, which is the iShares Global Clean Energy ETF, has an expense ratio of 0.5%. So it's a little bit up there, but in the grand scheme of things, fairly small price to pay. And then this ETF does have a beta of 1.34. And if you have no idea what that means, it's basically an indicator of the volatility of this ETF compared to the market. So for example, if on a given day, say the market S&P 500 was up 1%, typically this ETF would be up about 1.34%. And say on another day, the market was down 2%, this ETF would be down about 2.6% or so. And then let's take a look at the geographical breakdown of companies held in this ETF. So it looks like 63% of the companies held in this ETF are United States based, about 8.5% of the companies from Japan, 4.5% from Germany, 4% from China, and then a handful of other companies that are making up a fairly small percentage of the ETF's holdings. Let's see, Netherlands, Ireland, Canada, South Korea, Britain, Australia, Belgium, and then looks like they're holding about 3% of their assets in cash. Let's take a second for a quick intro. I'm Shub. Welcome back to my channel, and welcome if you're new. If you're enjoying this video so far, it would mean a lot to me if you could hit that like button, that subscribe button, as well as the notification bell. That way you'll be the first to know whenever I come out with new videos. I make weekly videos about growth stocks and ETFs, the EV and clean energy sectors, investing, and all the exciting parts of the stock market. With that being said, let's jump right back to it. Now let's look at their holdings. As we said before, they currently hold 76 companies in their portfolio. And at first glance, when we see this, we see a lot of tech companies. But we have to remember this ETF has exposure to the entire autonomous self-driving market and the EV sector, not just the EV manufacturers themselves. So basically, companies that are involved in making the hardware and software for self-driving technologies, EVs themselves, EVs parts and materials such as lithium batteries, and so on. So let's dive a little bit more into their top holdings. So their top holding is currently going to be Alphabet. Now, when we think of Google, we think of Google Search, YouTube, Google Maps, not necessarily EV or self-driving technology, but Alphabet is the clear leader in self-driving, autonomous driving technology. You guys might be familiar with one of their subsidiaries, Waymo, but Waymo currently offers completely driverless rides available in the Phoenix area. So basically, users can call a car using the Waymo One app, which is completely driverless, no safety driver. It's pretty entertaining to watch some YouTube videos and footage of people riding in one of these for the first time. And then their second largest holding currently is going to be Nvidia. When we think of Nvidia, we think of them making graphic cards for the gaming industry, not necessarily in the EV space, right? Well, turns out Nvidia is a huge player in the hardware, software, and infrastructure of self-driving cars. We're not going to get too technical here, but it says here on their website, they provide end-to-end solutions for software-defined autonomous vehicles. The Nvidia DRIV AGX platform empowers autonomous vehicles to process large volumes of sensor data and make real-time driving decisions. And then their third largest holding currently is Microsoft. Again, when you think of Microsoft, you might think of Windows, Microsoft Office, maybe the Microsoft Surface Pro tablets, right? Well, Microsoft recently entered into a key strategic partnership with GM and Cruise. For your reference, Cruise is a self-driving company headquartered in San Francisco, and they're majority owned by General Motors. So Microsoft is going to be a key technology provider to Cruise. Microsoft's cloud computing arm, Azure, is going to be part of the company's key technical backbone. And lastly, Microsoft's also a major equity investor in this company. Now, we don't know the exact amount, but Microsoft did join in on a round of around $2 billion Cruise recently raised. And then let's go through some of their other holdings here. Apple. Now, we know Apple's bread and butter is iPhones, iPad, and MacBooks, but in 2014, Apple did begin working on something called Project Titan, and this is the company's self-driving electric vehicle project. So they basically got about 1,000 car experts and engineers together that started developing a self-driving EV in a secret location near their headquarters of Cupertino, California. Now, over the course of the past 5 or 6 years, Apple has had a lot of challenges in terms of leadership changes, employee turnover, but in December 2020, it was confirmed that the Apple car project is still on. And a report from Reuters said Apple is shooting to start production of its Apple car as soon as 2024. Now, if you're thinking that's still a ways away, the bad news is that some Apple analysts are saying that 2025 to 2027 is a little more realistic. So Apple will work with a manufacturing partner and have next level battery technology to have optimal range and efficiency. So earlier, we know that Apple was in talks with Hyundai Kia as a manufacturer partner, but rumors suggest that those talks kind of fizzled out. And then new rumors suggest that Apple's new partners are going to be Canadian company Magna International to make the actual EVs and LG supplying the batteries. And then the Apple car would of course be run on Apple's native iOS software. And then the last one we're going to talk about today is Tesla. So Tesla is currently their 10th largest holding. Now this is a company that we typically think of when we think of EVs. So we're pretty familiar with Tesla, but they currently sell 4 EV models, the Tesla Model S, Model 3, Model X, Model Y, as well as some clean energy products such as the Tesla Powerwall, solar panels, and solar roof. So Tesla is a pretty strong company when it comes to financials. They recently reported revenues of $10.4 billion in Q1, which, just to give you a reference, was an impressive 74% increase in revenues of 6 billion the previous year, Q1 in 2020. And then Tesla is also working on some pretty exciting stuff. They're building 2 huge gigafactories, one in Berlin, one in Texas, for production of their Model Y, basically to increase capacity. And then they've got some pretty exciting stuff in the pipeline. You guys might be familiar with the Tesla Cybertruck. It's supposed to be released in late 2021. Let's see if that actually happens. And then other than these companies, there's another 70 or so companies that we're not going to go over in detail for the sake of time. Let's look at these. Some of these names look really familiar, some maybe not so familiar. There you have it, a nice little overview of the autonomous and electric vehicles ETF DRIV by Global X. I hope this video was helpful to you. I hope you learned some cool things. I'm personally a big fan of this ETF. It gives me exposure to investing in the entire autonomous self-driving and EV sector without having to think about it and pick individual stocks. I currently hold about 50 shares in this ETF, but I would not hesitate to increase my position and take advantage, say if there was a big dip coming. If you do decide to invest in this ETF, best of luck. If you like this video, please like and subscribe. It really helps the channel. It really means a lot to me. And don't forget, guys, if you plant your seeds early, you can really build your wealth over time. See you next time.